Soup, soup, let's start the show.
Why that made me laugh. No idea why that made me laugh.
I don't think we've ever started with the boom ghost sound. But there we go.
We did.
Welcome to the Neverdaily podcast, episode 335. Tres, cuatro, cinco. Tres, cinco. It's been a wild week. Did you know that we're going back to the moon?
It doesn't surprise me.
This year, we're going back to the moon. We haven't been back to the moon in decades, like a whole stack of decades. We haven't. Well, when I say we, I'm using we kind of like when
The
white
royal
people
we.
discover a country. We.
The royal we.
China's dropped some stuff on the moon. India did. It's been a handful of visits back.
We need to actually give like a high five to the India space program because they actually proved that we landed on the moon, and still people don't believe it. Like they literally like, here's the pictures of the lunar landers that we took with our own stuff. Look, you can see both of them. You can see both the Americans' lunar landers plain as day in the picture, and it's not like the Mars photo of the face. You're like, you have to squint real hard and blur your eyes and go cross-eyed for a second just to see it. No, it's plain as day. There's a landing unit on the moon, multiple. Yeah. There's two that they've taken pictures of.
There's a whole there online. You can find. Sometimes it's a slideshow. Sometimes it's like a grid.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a whole set of images that show from different space programs, pictures of the moon showing the lander. So it's like, here it is from India's cameras, here it is from China, here's from Austria, So yeah, it doesn't squash the critics still, because critics gonna critic. So the moment you say, well, here's 7 countries with different photos of the landers, they'll be like, well, but you can't prove that the humans were there, dude.
But my favorite part is like, do you really think that, China and Russia would be out here lying for their best bud, the U.S.?
I don't think
Even though
so.
they've both accepted and acknowledged that the United States has been to the moon. Like, that's not something they would just, like, make up for funsies, because they're just best friends. China and the U.S., China, and Russia and the U.S. have the best friendships. They're just lying for each other out there.
Yeah. It's not really a thing. You're never going to please everybody with that. But there is a Wikipedia page called Third Party Evidence of Apollo Moon Landings. You can go there. If you go to the Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter camera, you can see images of the Apollo landing. And I'd be like, okay, well, let's dig in. And it's one thing to drop a lunar lander on the moon. What about like the tire tracks from the rover, the rover that they drove all over the place, like they were on a Baja. And you can find those, but then people are like, yeah, but that could have been remotely operated. And then you say, okay, well, what about footprints? And we currently don't have a camera. Well, we don't have any lunar orbiting camera that has taken pictures, at least that have been released, that show enough detail to show the footprints. But give it another couple years, we'll probably have that. My guess would be, because we're going back to the moon this year. NASA is sending humans back to the moon this year. Here's a subtle prediction from me. on this is somehow NASA's going to jack up the whole thing and
Yeah.
SpaceX will come in and rescue it, just like they seem to do too often. But we don't have photo proof high res. Maybe I just haven't seen it, but give it a year. We'll have high res detail of the footprints on it. Still won't. The critics will be like, yeah, but like it could have been a robot with like a little foot, like shoe wheel on the side of it, you know?
Yeah.
So you're never going to please everybody.
Well, it's like when someone asked Steven Spielberg about it, and he was just like, yeah. He's like, I could have made a video that looked like the one. He's like, it wouldn't have been the same because he's like, I wouldn't be able to do X, Y, and Z that's in the video. Like, he's mostly focusing on the dust. He's like, I wouldn't know how to slow down the dust, like doing practical effects. He's like, without like massive amounts of camera switching, and he's like, he's like, literally, he's like, it probably would cost me more to fake a moon landing than it would cost just to go to the moon.
Yeah.
He's like, he's like, you have to look at the money. He's like, always follow the money. It would cost less to actually go to the moon than fake that moon video, and then all of the other things you'd have to fake to keep it, you know, looking legit.
Now, here's where I'll throw a curve at it. Is I'm having the hardest time lifting my hands any higher than my collarbones.
You all right there, Ricky Bobby?
Yeah. I went to the gym and I did a tricep workout where you hold your hand like your palm up, you know, and arm to the square kind of by your sides.
Careful.
And then you grab a handle. It's a cable exercise, but you grab the handle and you pull so your arm goes straight down toward to your thigh, right down to your hip on this side. So it's really basic. But and like the app I'm using, it's like just start with 30 pounds. I'm like 30 pounds. I did 30. I was like, I couldn't do one at 30. I was like, what's wrong with this?
We all know that you only do 2 moves in the gym, and that's bench and hip thrusters.
Yeah. There's certain things I won't do in the gym because it just looks embarrassing. I will do those things at home. But this was crazy. And I was like, okay, well, no ego. So I dropped it to 10, which is the lowest plate on the cable.
Mm-hmm.
And I grabbed it and I did my sets, 4 sets, 12, 4 sets of 12 on this thing. But by the end of the sets, I wasn't even completing 12. Like my arm literally wouldn't pull down to all the way down. And I was like, this is so weird, you know? So I'm like struggling through it and everything, not really thinking about the fact, like I'm thinking it's a tricep workout. So back of the arm, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when you think about triceps, you identify like right below your delt, you've got your big tricep, the head of the tricep right there. Well, you also have triceps that go all the way down to your elbow, basically. I mean, not to get into the anatomy, there's a handful of muscles back there, but that part of the tricep is what's getting worked. It's the flat part that goes down to your elbow.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I had to drop it to 10 pounds because most people don't have real stacked lower elbow triceps. So I'm working out a muscle that is impossibly small most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I did a ton of it. And now I'm like, oh no, that's a functional muscle. It controls my elbow. And so now I can't raise my hands above my collarbone without a lot of stretch and pain. Anyway, so we're going back to the moon. There'll be more evidence. I think SpaceX will probably have to step in. I don't know why yet, but they will.
They will.
It'll also, I think, open up a Pandora's box of a new thing. I think that they'll kind of come from this trip, and that is we're becoming much more wise to the resources on the moon.
Yeah. And
so I think this trip will kind of open that door a little bit more publicly as far as resource consumption. How do you mine the moon Do you have to be when you put a flag on the moon? How big do you own the moon? Do you have regions? Like it's a whole thing. Kind of like Greenland.
Yeah.
This won't age well, but right now in the past or the future, wherever you're listening to this episode, Trump's talking about Greenland, and it makes a lot of sense. Like there's this old TV show with Allison Janney where she's an advisor for the president, and the president in this TV show is a woman. And I only say that because it was different. There was a woman president. So anyway, Allison Janney comes in, and she in like 2 minutes explains why Greenland is like so important.
Mm-hmm.
And so anyway, there's a whole lot of reasons Greenland's happening right now. My prediction, it will happen. It will happen. And it conjures up for all the people that hate Trump. You know, Trump wakes up in the morning and people are like, how dare he wake up? You know, I don't think you should hate anybody that much that there's nothing they could do to, you hate everything.
Yeah.
But there's a massive number of resources in Greenland. It's a strategic thing. So
plus, and Denmark, their whole thing to protect Greenland is to rely on everyone else to protect Greenland for them.
Yeah. Well, to rely on the United States. The World Economic Forum just kicked off in Davos, Switzerland. This is hilarious. So it kicked off in Davos, right? All the major countries go. Tons of speeches. It's political / everything. You know, there's a bit of everything.
In polite terms, it's a political circle jerk.
Yeah, but this time everybody was posturing. Everybody's hates Trump, but then they're all seen bending the knee.
We hate Trump, but please send us the check anyways. We hate you, but send us our checks anyways.
The U.S. has had a disproportionately high contribution monetarily.
Oh, it's like 85%
to the UN.
Yeah,
it's ridiculous, and he's said we're done, and he's said it for years. You know, for a handful of years, we're done doing that. We're not going to fund every other country's protection in the United Nations. You got to step up, and most countries were in the 1% of their contribution to defense, to UN defense. U.S. has consistently been 5%. Has been contributed. And then people started like conjecturing that he was going to compel everybody to 2.5%. He's like, here, hold my money bag. And then he says 5%. Everyone is going to be at 5%. And they did it. And it makes sense. Like we're funding and anyway, I won't.
We're funding something that doesn't. We never like. When was the last time you saw a UN anything? You know what I mean?
When have you seen the UN? When has the UN done something that the world has said? I mean, they say it's the world's peace police, you know, kind of a thing. They can't. When you go to it's crazy. When you go to a war-torn country and the UN is present, UN. If there's soldiers there that are UN, they wear bright white helmets with like blue on it. They don't carry weapons. Like it's a whole thing, and it's like, why are you? What are we doing? That's worse than like a school resource officer as far as their contribution to safety.
They just stand there and go, "We're here, we're here." That's it.
This was funny. In Davos, above Davos in the foothills in the mountains there's this giant bright sign that someone, probably some group, constructed that said no kings, right? Obviously it's connected to hating Trump, right? I mean, that's what that's all about. And the most timely, like, hey, what's the topic though? Because everybody thinks Trump's king. It's because he's talking about Greenland, right? And so they've light this sign up that says no kings. Guess what Greenland has?
A king. Guess how many kings are part of UN? Like, how many countries have kings?
It's like the dumbest.
It's 18 to 20, depending on your definition of a king.
18
to 20 members of the UN have actual kings.
They're all cool king. They're all cool kings.
Yeah.
But the one not king, that's not a king and doesn't do kingly things, is the king they hate.
Yeah.
Oh, also the dictators that aren't considered kings, but they're terrible people. They all get a yeah, but from the media, but the one not king is the one that, anyway,
I remember a time not too long ago, not too many presidents ago, when I had to carry paperwork to go into a restaurant and to go to a sporting event. And I had to show my paperwork. And people were literally like, papers, please. And I'm just like, what the hell?
A massive number of our military got kicked out of the military.
But yeah. There's only one king that we ever had,
It's fine. It's fine. You don't really mean it because you don't mean it when it's somebody you like, is the way I put it.
When when you feel like the king's on your side, you don't care.
Yeah. It's funny. It's funny because Keir Starmer, the empty suit that's over the UK, he literally said at a conference, at a meeting at the White House, we have free speech. He said that. He said that. Right now, if you don't know, I mean, most people probably know by now, but you can't be critical of Islam or anything on social media they'll come to your house and take you.
There's people getting arrested
that's not
for
hyperbole
having
either.
The hashtag bacon. People were getting arrested for that. Literally arrested, and they're like, why am I being arrested? Like, because of things you post on social media. What did I post? Well, you posted something that said hashtag bacon. And they're like, wait, what?
It's wild. They don't have that. It's funny. Anyway, moving on. So we're going back to the moon. We'll probably figure out some innovative ways to mine the moon soon. I thought I would give you a little bit of an interesting ride for a minute.
Do I need protection?
You would need protection in this case, but I thought I would ask the question: what if you jumped on the rocket
I'd break
that went to the moon? Not just like not like in the cartoons where they're on the outside of the rocket. You'd make it about 100 feet in the air. You'd make it about 300 feet in the air. 100 feet, you would be suddenly flash frozen to the rocket. And then about 200 more feet, you would break off of the rocket and you'd be dead. But no, like you stowed away inside the cabin where
the teacher, I'll survive. Oh, too soon?
Yeah. Ooh. R.I.P. Krista.
Thanks for making little kids watch the space shuttle blow up America.
So I got a T- list for you here of what would happen to you if you jumped on and took a ride with the astronauts. T-shirt and shorts. Okay, just to make it a little interesting. Here's how it goes. T0 to T10 minutes. The immediate environment, the cabin pressure is around 14.7 psi, which is Earth-like. The oxygen in the cabin is controlled and it's recycled, so you're fine. The temperature is climate controlled, so again, you're okay. So far, you're fine physically. Psychologically, I can't even scratch my own shoulder. Because of my muscles don't work.
Do you want my back scratcher?
I've got one in the house, but
mine's au naturel.
Here's what your body's experiencing when the rocket takes off. 3 to 4 G's of acceleration during ascent. Blood is pushed toward your lower body. Your chest feels like someone parked a riding lawnmower on it. Astronauts, they train for this, right? So they train in these centrifuges. You've probably all seen them. They put a person in, they spin them around really fast. And they're sitting in a chair, and the Earth comes at them very fast. So they train for this. Your vision grays out slightly. Your peripheral vision narrows. You briefly consider apologizing to everyone you've ever known. Your heart rate would spike. Blood pressure rises. Your stress hormones, your cortisol and adrenaline, flood your system. You don't pass out at this point, but you discover new muscles in your neck that are trying to hold your head upright because it's so hard to just hold your head upright.
You start looking like this. Just like that.
What?
You start looking like this?
Yeah. Sorry, my camera was covered with the script, so it looks like I'm looking into the camera. T plus 10 minutes to T plus 3 hours. So your orbital insertion, which you should never do other than in space, and microgravity begins. So the moment gravity turns off, 1 second you weigh something, next second your stomach floats upward, which is an emotion humans they're not prepared for. There's a fluid shift. This is where things really start to get weird. Without gravity, blood and bodily fluids migrate upward. So your face would swell. Your legs thin out. Astronauts call this puffy face chicken legs. So you'd get puffy face chicken legs, which sounds like a great stuffed animal, or a little stuffed person. My daughter Bean would love a puffy face chicken legs doll. So you look like someone allergic to gravity. And a really confused cartoon character, really. So your physiological effects that are happening now is your sinus pressure would build, nasal congestion, headaches, and your voice becomes nasally. So your brain starts thinking, we are upside down forever. And your inner ear, it can't detect up or down. So it starts a panic meeting throughout your whole body. And you're the last one to know.
How many times have I pooped myself by this point?
It depends on what you ate that morning.
Okay.
To be honest.
Chorizo breakfast tacos?
Oh gosh, you browned the corner before liftoff.
Okay.
So, all right, T plus 6 hours to day 2. So you are trying to adapt. This is called space adaptation syndrome, also known as space motion sickness. So this is almost guaranteed for untrained humans. You would have severe nausea. So forget the breakfast burrito. It's now floating in the air. Vomiting, cold sweats, disorientation, vertigo. And here's the really cruel part. You don't vomit down, you just vomit into the air, so it's everywhere. The crew hates you now. Not only did they not want you on the trip, they are surrounded by you and liquid parts of you. Your stomach contents float in slow motion like a haunted soup cloud while everyone scrambles to contain it. Then dehydration begins. So you'd have a reduced thirst sensation plus the vomiting. So you start dehydrating pretty quick. Astronauts have carefully monitored hydration schedules while they're in space. You have vibes. So, all right, day 3 to day 6. This is the transition to the moon. So you start having muscle atrophy. So your muscles stop working as hard because there isn't any gravity. Stress loss, stress and strength both start to lose grip. You start losing strength within 24 to 48 hours without gravity. Astronauts exercise 2 to 3 hours per day to slow this down. You, though, you float around, you apologize, you float some more. Oh, also this, everyone on ground crew is furious at you because the extra 200 pounds to whatever you weigh.
Generous to me.
Yeah. When they launch, suddenly all of their very fine-tuned calibrations for a launch program are thrown off by this extra 200 pounds that they weren't factoring in. So they have to compensate for that with just additional rockets, rocket angles, emissions from, because once you're in space, it's not rockets that they're using necessarily. It's air pressure and other things that they eject to right the ship. So while you're apologizing and everything, your legs start weakening, you lose endurance, your bones begin losing calcium, bone density loss begins immediately, and you lose 1 to 2% per month. And that matters a lot. I don't know if you remember last year, the astronauts that were stuck there for like extra months, but it becomes a problem. So now you're also outside of Earth's magnetosphere, and you start getting hit with galactic cosmic rays, solar radiation, and high energy particles that are passing through your cells. So it's like being at a carnival, and instead of the balloons on the dartboard, your body's there. So the effects of this, and this gets scary, is there's DNA damage because those high moving particles are passing through your body as if your body isn't there, and they're hitting microscopic, molecular, submolecular size pieces of you like DNA. And so once you start getting your DNA damaged by solar radiation and hyperparticles from space, that increases your cancer risk and cellular mutations. So short term, nothing is going to be very dramatic about this. Long term, though,
you could
your
turn
cells
into the Hulk.
Yeah. Your cells will start taking notes, and within a decade, they'll start filing the complaints. You're absorbing radiation in a t-shirt. NASA usually prefers walls, shielding, math, and a spacesuit or two. Okay, so then you've got lunar orbit insertion, which again, you should never do without practice. You got G-forces again. So your body begins to get slammed with deceleration forces, because I didn't really consider this, but like I was watching this video on how we're going to get to Mars and everything, and the trip is really long. And you would think that, like the Hollywood films, that there's just this rocket, like, it's got some ion blaster that's, hurtling it through space. But really what happens is you use rocket engines to get out of Earth's atmosphere and the gravity forces of Earth. And then you switch to something that's not rocket, like a regular, like fire rocket. You're using something that propels you forward to an insane speed. But then about halfway there, they turn those off because nothing is slowing you down. There's no air or any resistance. And so those rockets turn off a significant portion away from your destination. and then you start a process of deceleration for like a major part of the trip. So it's not like Hollywood where it's like blasting until you're like right above Mars and then they cut the engines. No, you would literally crash into
like
the
on
planet.
all the old Star Wars where it's like a blur into just completely stopped.
Yes,
Like
that's
that's
not
the opposite
a thing.
of what happens.
If we hyperspaced like they do in, we would hyperspace like 5 parsecs past where we're supposed to be. There'd be a lot of like, bad GPS readings. Turn around,
turn around, and head back 2.7 light years.
Yeah, that's exact. So the same with the moon. When you're going there, there's a process of deceleration that starts happening well before you get to the moon. But you're already weakened because your muscles took a vacation a while back.
And they started out as me in the first place, so it's already doubly bad.
Yeah, and then you had all the neck problems during the G-forces before, and then your body, because no gravity, decided it doesn't need muscles as much, so they've been atrophying the whole time, and then the gravity and deceleration starts kicking in, so your neck strain intensifies because you now have less neck to do the stuff. Blood pressure is going to fluctuate. Your inner ear says, we fixed nausea. Then immediately it says, just kidding. And it all starts over. So whatever NASA paste you've been eating that they've reluctantly given you on the trip is going to come back up. And then we get to landing on the moon. So 1/6 the gravity of Earth. This is where you lose the argument with physics. You're going to, when you first have contact with lunar gravity, you weigh about 16.5% of your Earth weight, which sounds really cool, but it's not.
I finally made it into the 300s again, guys.
Yay. You've lost muscle tone, you've lost bone strength, you've lost balance calibration. You think about this too. Think about all this happening, and then think about go back and watch the videos of the guys that landed on the moon first, and they were like running around and jumping around and falling and everything.
Yeah.
It gives you kind of a new appreciation for like what they had dealt with before they even got there, right?
Mm-hmm.
So standing up feels like you're wearing a weighted backpack on a trampoline while drunk during an earthquake. So, okay, again, this is important. You are in shorts and a shirt.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't exit the lander at all. But if you did, lunar surface equals vacuum. Oxygen boils out of your bloodstream. Loss of consciousness in 10 to 15 seconds. You're dead within 90 seconds. Your t-shirt does not negotiate with the environment at all. So you remain inside watching trained astronauts bounce around like majestic dust goblins while you sit indoors questioning life's choices. So you're on the moon for a couple days. You're inside the lander. You're still pressurized. It's still oxygenated. But your body continues to lose muscle. You continue to lose bone. Your cardiovascular system is deconditioning itself. Your heart doesn't work as hard. You begin losing pumping efficiency. Standing up becomes harder each day. Your immune system becomes suppressed, reactivates dormant viruses like Epstein-Barr. Fun fact. I don't know if many people have heard about this, but all the International Space Station astronauts just recently came back because the first ever astronaut sickness happened. Like somebody got wildly sick up there. We didn't know who it was specifically until return. Like they didn't release who it was. I want to say 6 astronauts that came back. Turns out it was a dude. I haven't looked into what he had, but it was bad enough that they pieced everybody out, right? And so because you have a reduced immune system while you're up there, there are viruses that your body is constantly kicking the butt of on Earth, where it suddenly is not interested anymore. So it's like a pacifist at a coffee shop who gets sick off of toast you know. So you probably will get rashes, you'd get cold-like symptoms, you'd have inflammation that's even worse than puppy-faced chicken legs. So then the astronauts are furious with you. They come back from their basic, whatever required missions they're supposed to be doing while they're there. Then they come back, they start their trip back to Earth. This is actually the most dangerous part for you specifically. So
Just
your
for me.
body's weaker, deconditioned, structurally compromised during re-entry. So we'll fast forward just to coming back into the Earth. So during re-entry, you hit 3 to 5 Gs again. Your blood pools this time. Muscle structures keep you conscious just long enough to realize that all your muscles are going to give up, and then you're unconscious. So astronauts, again, they train for that because fainting during re-entry is a bad thing. It's bad look. It's bad for driving. But you black out briefly, not dramatically, just enough to like have all the astronauts get more annoyed at you, and you're stuck in the corner amidst floating vomit again, wedged at 5 Gs, and they're not going to do anything about it.
Mm-hmm.
So there's also the pressure and chaos of heat. So the spacecraft slams into the atmosphere at 25,000 miles an hour, experiences extreme deceleration. So your skeleton is technically fine, but it hates the situation. You start getting microfractures in your bones. Spinal compression risk increases. If you were even in a position where your spine was being compressed, most likely you're just crumpled in a corner. You're going to survive, but you're not going to survive gracefully. And then splashdown. So gravity returns in full at this point. It's a super gut punch to you. Your body suddenly weighs 100% again of whatever is left in your body. Your legs shake and then they buckle. You refuse to participate with standing up. Just not going to happen. Your heart would struggle to regulate blood pressure. You'd get dizzy. You'd probably faint. Astronauts are carried out of capsules for a reason. I don't know if you've seen this. You probably have. Every time the astronauts land back on Earth, they are carried around like little babies.
Well, unless that astronaut was Katy Perry.
Yeah, that was such a joke. Such a joke.
The fact that they tried to pass that off as real, and then when everyone called them out, they're like, "No, it's still real. It's still real."
My favorite part of the video, and what's crazy is like, I don't know if we just don't care anymore, or like our attention span is so limited. But my favorite part of that video was when Jeff Bezos goes to open the door, and someone from the inside opened it first, and then was like, "Oh shoot," and they closed it again, and then he goes and opens the door with a like a tool, like.
And not to mention, do you know how hot that thing would be? Like it would still be like 800 degrees or something stupid like that, and just walk up there and touch it like that's not how this works, bud.
Oh, it's so weird. I mean, also the capsule was pristine, like forget re-entry effects. It was hilarious. So you've got all the nightmare stuff that would hit you right away. You would probably have to have some rehabilitative measures taken. So you'd have to recover the bone density that you lost. You'd have to rebuild the muscles. That would take months. And you'd probably have to have some cardiovascular rehabilitation. So the long term is really where Mistakeville takes place from your stupid idea to jump aboard. You'd have a massive increase in cancer risk from the radiation that you were exposed to. You'd probably have vision changes. So space flight gives astronauts what they call space flight associated neuroocular syndrome.
Mm-hmm.
So it's blood pressure, muscle fatigue, plus all the bombarding of space particles that you're outside of the Earth's protection, so those things are constantly blasting through all the parts of your body, you'd have chronic back issues, and you'd
Already
probably
that,
have
so
an
it's okay.
dysregulated immune system.
Well, and I have
So
dysregulated emotions too, so
don't
that's for
do it.
different reasons.
I would highly recommend not doing it ever.
I'm gonna do it.
I would love to. I'd love to see that report. Like, we'd all know that guy's name or gal's name for the rest of our lives. We'd probably it's probably Greg. It's probably a Greg. And we would definitely come up with a way to make his name a meme. That, have you ever heard, the phrase, "Oh, your name's Mud"? It means like,
I've
oh,
heard
you're in
it, yeah.
a lot of trouble.
Mm-hmm.
We would Greg to the point of that, where we would create a term. Your name is Mud comes from when Lincoln was assassinated. There was an individual, totally wrong place, wrong time, who was initially captured as the prime suspect in the assassination of Lincoln. And so that's where we get that. We get that from a guy named Mud, who, wrong place, wrong time.
Yep.
Don't go to the moon without help.
Without at least some Spanx to keep everything together.
You're going to need, hopefully they make forehead Spanx and neck Spanx.
And you're going to want a lot of that Monostat anti-chafing cream.
Yeah.
Like a lot of it.
Yep.
And don't make the mistake I did and eat chorizo right before launch.
You think about it, the environment is so small too.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know if you've ever seen the cockpit that these guys are on the rocket. It'd be really hard to hide. Like,
yeah.
Super stupid hard. Like, it was a setup from the beginning. If somebody successfully did, if Greg could successfully do that, then somebody made it happen. Anyway, moving on.
I don't know why, but what is it? I like most of my space knowledge has come from the movie Rocket Man. So, very realistic. They did a lot of research into making sure they kept everything true to space. So, I know a lot about space. That is what I'm trying to say. Because of Rocket Man.
Most of my knowledge comes from the movie Space Camp, where the only thing I remember is how to hold my breath longer by thinking about eating French fries. So,
how was Space Camp?
Great.
Did you do a lot of math?
What I like to do is, when people ask me what the craziest thing I've ever done, it's my mission that I served, but I tell people it was Space Camp. And they're like, wow. And then I explain all the things that happened on my mission, but I changed some of the words so it sounds like it was Space Camp.
So it's more spacey?
Yeah. Also, I was in Huntsville, Alabama, which is a super giant contrast in social norms. It's a town full of engineers in Alabama.
So there's a lot of autism happening, I bet.
It's giant engineering facilities populated by super giant brain people, and then the freeway, and then a half a mile of kudzu, and then roads that don't have road names. They're all rural route numbers. That's Huntsville.
And then there's probably some sort of crab boil going on somewhere at any given time.
Any rural route that you go down, there will be some kind of
there's usually a smell of Old Bay seasoning on the wind coming from somewhere.
It's just wafting through the air.
Yeah.
Until you cross the freeway back over near the engineering facility, and then it's brute. It's just the brute
like
aftershave.
Brute and Loctite.
Brill cream and Loctite.
Do you know that
Yeah.
Loctite actually tastes really delicious?
No,
Don't ask me how I know. It's
I
like,
won't.
I don't know, like if they could get the sweetener in Loctite, whatever makes it taste sweet, and put that in food, oh, it'd be perfect. Tastes just like real sugar. Don't ask me how I
Okay.
know.
Yeah.
The blue stuff, oh, so good.
Yeah. I was going to say, you also know that you're eating it because it's blue. So it's not like, oh no, I accidentally licked my finger. You saw it
Yeah.
coming.
I knew it was there, and I did it anyways.
So we are a Thursday on the show. Tuesday didn't happen. We really don't have a good excuse for Tuesday not happening. It just didn't. But we're here, and we've got new music Tuesday on a Thursday. Tell us what you brought.
So I don't have any sort of story behind the song I brought today or the band. This just happened to be one of those like random, like when you finish your playlist on Spotify, and sometimes it just is like, here's another playlist for you out of nowhere, and it just throws you one, or it throws you like into some random radio that was based off what you're listening to. And this song showed up, and I was like, oh, I really like this. Makes my hips want to do dance stuff, and I'm not a dancer, so it's kind of it's like a very groovy, but it's not like, like 70s groove music. It's just good bass that makes you want to move your hips. That's all it
Okay.
is. Just a nice song you can dance to, but also rock out to at the same time. So it's a double whammy. But yeah,
Okay.
this song is called Melt by the band Macari, and I have no idea where they're from, who they are, if they're even real people. I don't know. Who knows? Just they made a good song.
Okay. Macari, Melt.
Take all your time and go
Okay.
And that's the song, Melt. It's one of those, as I think I was talking to Sam about this before we started recording, but I just like, one of the other things I like is the little claps in there. Just makes you, if you know about them, makes you feel so cool. Just to do the double clap.
Clap,
It's
clap.
just a dumb little thing that makes my brain happy. Gives me a little dopamine hit. I don't know why.
I was trying to figure out why on our analytics of the Neverdaily podcast recently we saw an uptick in listeners, and I will bet it's because you are bringing back emo in such a
Trying to.
terrible way.
That wasn't even
That song
emo.
started out and I was like, "Oh, okay. This sounds fresh. This sounds fun." And then he started singing. I was like, "Oh,
He just has a high-pitched voice. He just got kicked in the nuts 12 too many times as a child, okay?
it's just so I'm not critical of it. I'm just it's such a genre. You know what I mean? Like
See, I would
it's
put that more into punk pop.
it's like when Bob Dylan came around and suddenly the music industry was like, "Oh, you don't have to sound good." And Tom Petty was like, "What? Who's famous? Oh, sweet." The Rolling Stones are like, "Oh, no, come back. No, you can be the lead singer. We're just kidding. You don't suck. We thought you sucked, but suddenly the world says you don't."
Come back.
Roger Waters was like, "Ah, crap. There goes good singing. I guess we don't have to do that anymore." Joan Jett was like, "Yes." It's just very similar to, like, there's a definite genre for the screamo. You know what I mean? Like, it fits a certain. It's like it. There's a start date. I don't want to burst your bubble by saying there's an end date, because that's mean. I'm not going to say that, but there is one.
Not yet. Maybe in 100 years.
No,
Like,
according to you, and you will see screamo die in your cold dead hands, Chase. That's
well, I was just talking to someone the other day. I found a random band popped up, and I was like, "Oh, this sounds just like 2006." I went and looked at them. They're all 17-year-old kids.
yeah.
Like, they're all 17-year-old kids. They're wearing the same clothes like that I wore, and like, all the scene kids, concert kids wore. And I'm like, the kids are gonna be okay. If there's still kids like this, 17-year-olds pumping out stuff that sounds like it's from 2006, like directly, I was like, the kids are gonna be all right. It's my first time. I'm like, these kids can be okay.
Yep. I do like that. I think that's a good sign of youth that have good heads on their shoulders when they pick a genre. It doesn't have to be, there's no particular genre, but they pick a genre and they're like, "I'm going to do this 100%.
Yeah, I'm gonna do this like legit, the right, like, not the right way, but like I'm gonna, give what did you say? It's like when artists are like they're gonna pay their respects to their elders, kind of a thing.
Yeah. It's it's like when a youth picks up a Gibson ES 335 and is like, "I'm doing jazz. So, and I'm going to do it really good." And then, 5 years later, you're like, "Holy crap. Who is that?"
It's like
And you look at it.
one of my nieces. She plays the saxophone. She rips on the saxophone.
Yeah.
And like
I like
her
that.
mom rips on the saxophone. And yeah, it's just like some people are just like, you know what, I'm gonna take this thing and I'm gonna own it.
I have a high level of respect for people that pick something, especially something that's culturally hard to make cool. Not the saxophone, but like, I know I've got a friend who played the sousaphone, and I'm like, wow, you really like being part of a band.
Yeah. There's this guy I follow out of the Pacific Northwest. his day job is he literally plays for the state symphony. Like that's he plays I think he plays the oboe for like the state of Oregon. But his what he does on the side is he's literally a lumberjack. Like he's not a lumberjack, but what he does is he'll go and do tree removal services of like hardwood trees, and then he'll actually mill them himself. He'll dry them out, kiln them himself, make them into slabs, and like that's what like he's like. This is what my passion is. He's like, but my day job is I play the oboe in a state symphony, and I'm just like, that's kind of a weird thing, but you own it. Like
he owns all of it. He owns the peculiarity of playing the oboe like a wizard, and then he makes rough-hewn lumber and probably makes a killing on that. To be honest, that stuff that can get expensive. I kid you not. I just opened a new tab and typed sousaphone solo, fully expecting Google to go, no results found. I was surprised by a good amount of sousaphone. And in one case, this makes sense. The most popular sousaphone solo on YouTube, 435,000 views. It was posted 14 years ago. So it's not like, it was yesterday.
Yeah.
But this tells you a little bit. It's like if you're like, which song do you like really has a driving sousaphone solo? If you were ever wondering, this makes a lot of sense. The song is Carnival of Venice, and I'm like, okay, yeah, I get it. Yeah.
Well, hey, one of our backdoor listeners is driving across the state for a Sousa honor band that their kid made. Shout out to Delaney.
Again, like that's what I'm saying is when a kid that just straight up looks you dead in the eyes and like, this is what I'm going to do this thing. And you can't do anything except for just respect it and be like, I'm in 100%. Let's do this thing. Where's the next sousaphone competition? I'm there.
I had a buddy who played the fiddle, and I didn't know that the fiddle wasn't a style of playing. I thought it was just like, oh, you take a violin and you play it differently. No, a fiddle is its own instrument. It's different. It's set up different. It's different size than a classical violin. And my friend, he plays a fiddle and he loves it. Like he's just like, nope. He's like, I don't. And he said, that's the hard part is most people play a violin, but they play it like a fiddle. But he's like, no, there is an actual fiddle and you play the fiddle differently than the violin. And so like he went out and found an actual fiddle, which apparently are hard to find, I guess, compared to violins. And yeah, he was just like, no, I'm going to fiddle it. I'm not playing violin crap. Fiddle music only, sir. And that's what he did.
I don't want to, your friend loves the fiddle so much that I don't want to say that your friend is feeding you misinformation, but a quick Google search of is fiddle just a violin? Yes. A fiddle is technically the exact same instrument as a violin. The difference...
Yeah. Do you know what Google told me, though? Google AI is the absolute worst in the history of the world.
Okay, but it goes on to say the difference lies in the musical style and cultural context, with violin usually referring to classical music and fiddle to folk, country, or bluegrass. And I would agree with you that the preponderance of the method for playing those types of music is different. You're not going to have the same long legato, bow movements that you would with classical. And there's definitely nuance. It's kind of like saying slide guitar is guitar. It's, slide guitar is the same as playing electric guitar. Yes, they're both the same instrument, but wildly different in the way you play it,
Okay, so they are set up different. So they do have different parts.
What?
Flatter bridges, different strings. So this literally says right here, fiddles generally feature a flatter bridge for easier double stops.
Well, then if I go to johnsonstrings.com, fiddles versus violins. Are violins and fiddles different? The answer is a surprising no. Violin and
So you
fiddle
can
are the
find
same
anything to
four-string
fit.
instrument, generally played with the bow. The term violin. So you know what? I think
it's
what we've
different.
come to.
I think you can put different components on the base model.
I think what we've come to is a term that I'm really trying hard to bring back in 2026, and that is we are at a loggerheads, Chase, and that's where we'll stay on this. I am going to defer to you, which I'm going to say that's interesting, and we'll leave it at that because.
Well, I mean, it's the same. I think like with any like electric guitars, you can get different pickups that do different things, right?
Well, yeah, you got piezo pickups. You have,
And so it's like you can't play like Led Zeppelin on like a certain type of guitar set up a certain way. Like you could, but you'd have to mess with a bunch of the settings and your head unit and change your distortions and all that stuff. Like I guess it's same but different. So
well,
it's like
if you're playing folk or country or bluegrass, sonically there is a certain. You're right. There's a certain setup where to get the sound, you could play "Devil Went Down to Georgia" on a classically set up violin, but then if you switched A-B between "Devil Went Down to Georgia" on a setup that is like a violin playing in an orchestra, meaning miking and the whole 9 yards, versus the way that a violin is set up for playing "Devil Went Down to Georgia" on a state fair stage, you're right. There's going to be different setup.
because it's like my wife has a violin and like half that stuff is like easily removable. Like there's no like the bridge. There's nothing holding it there except for the string tension. Does that make sense?
Well, yeah.
And so it's like you can get a different bridge. You could literally pop a bridge in and out like in 2 seconds. You can just ba-boom, ba-boom.
A lot of violins that are played on stage are electrified. There's piezo pickups in the bridge. You don't get that. You're not gonna be amped if you're playing, minuet and G. It's you're not plugged into a dumble.
It's like one of a really cool looking instrument actually is a electric cello. Have you seen some of those?
Oh yeah,
Where it's
there's
literally
like
just
no body to it.
Yeah, it's just a stick, and then there's things for your knees to like grab onto, and then that's it.
When we went to Disneyland, I think I was like 18 or 19. At the time, there was this violinist who was really popular with Disney music. She had done some stuff, and her violin was amplified, and it was, they were routing it through synth and arpeggiators and stuff, and it was really cool. I mean, it's cool. I like that when you take a traditional instrument and somebody comes up with an innovative way to convert it sonically. I love lap steel for that reason. Lap steel is basically, it's a guitar laid down like a table, and there's 75 feet between the strings and the fretboard because they don't come in contact with each other. On a lap steel, your finger does all the changing of the length of the strings rather than a fret being the stop. So I love that. I think our ears enjoy that when somebody comes up with a very good way of changing an instrument sonically. One of my favorite composers uses odd objects and attaches them to piano strings. Like he'll take paper clips and attach them to piano strings and then play the piano. And you'd think it would sound like garbage, but it's cool. There's some wilds. I've always been into synth. I've always been into like synthesizing, modifying, that kind of stuff. I'm a big fan. Big fan. Okay, I brought a song. I'm pulling this out of my my Spotify playlist, Girls That Music Good, which is a playlist that I have that I have on Spotify. I don't know if it's public or anything. Let me see here. No. Invite, collaborate. Is it public? Make private. No, it's public. I just don't think nobody follows it. That's all.
Of my playlists on Spotify.
Girls that music good. And this is from that. I have a tendency. There's kind of two ways I do Spotify anymore. Well, three. Every once in a while, I'll just turn on someone that I know I love, and I'll play a whole album, or I'll turn it on and get into a zone. But more often than not anymore, I'll find the music radio for somebody I like, because I'm constantly looking for, like, I enjoy. I know I've found something that I like when my brain subconsciously takes me out of being in the zone and goes, oh, what is this? I like that.
What is that?
And so I find that. And if you haven't looked at it and you're on Spotify has a curated playlist for you right now. It always has one for you, and it's called Discover Weekly. There's Discover Weekly.
And there's Release Radar too.
And Release Radar. Yeah. So Discover Weekly curates new music that you haven't heard based on your interests. So the algorithm's pretty smart on this one. And then Release Radar, I really like, because I follow so many bands on Spotify that I lose track of who's releasing stuff. So it drops new releases from bands you might have forgotten you even follow. I like Release Radar because it, like right now, if I go to Discover Weekly, for some reason, I must have been playing a lot of ambient music lately. A lot of like acoustic guitar players that do a lot of the fingerboard pressing and stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but suddenly my Discover Weekly is just chock full of it.
Of classical acoustic guitar.
Yeah, but it's like Yanni had a baby with Andres Segovia, so it's it's all sort of like I could read to it. Like there's no words. It's just, it all kind of blends together. So I don't know how I did that, but anyway. Today my fave song is coming from my playlist, Girls That Music Good. It's an artist. Her name is Katie Herzig. And this is one of those songs where I heard it, I was just like, and I added it to my favorites, my liked songs. And it's called Way to the Future. And I just like it, straight up. She's a girl that music's good. So here we go. Katie Herzig, Way to the Future. If she wants to play. Katie Herzig,
I like that.
Way to the Future. One of the things, speaking of violins and stuff, one of the things I really like about that, I like it when an orchestra starts ripping through a good arpeggio.
Mm-hmm.
Now that one's got a very upbeat arpeggio that a string section is just probably sweating by the end because that was a lot of ta 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 ta. And I like that. I think it's fun.
I liked it too.
So she's also one, like, ever since I started podcasting and writing and doing research and stuff, sometimes I'll like my teeth will sink into somebody because they seem to have disappeared and I can't stop until I know like what they're doing now. Because like Katie Herzig, for example, the last thing I can find on her was like she pinned something to her X profile in 2019 about a music video that she did, and nothing since. And then the last post she has was one where she's like promoting some mayor in Nashville on 2023 in 2023. And I'm like, yeah, but like in my brain, I don't know why this always like I always, I'm a fan of somebody. And in my brain, I'm like, but where did you go? And then I fast forward to like calling a travel agency in Nashville. And suddenly it's like, Wilson Travel Agency, this is Katie Herzig. How can I help you? Like my brain says she's just working at a travel agency now. Like, I don't know, but I'm always curious. But for somebody like that, she lives in Nashville. She's a songwriter. She could very well be making a ton of hay, writing songs for somebody, and she's got bylines in, other albums and stuff. So, but I don't know if I mentioned this on the air. I might have, but I did that with one of my favorite drummers recently. Right? I dug into him and was trying to find him and everything. And we're friends on Facebook. I don't think he knows or cares that we are. But I reached out to him. I was like, "Hey, would you ever want to be on my podcast?" And he was like, currently working on something with the producer of Sublime. But yeah, you're on the list.
You're on the list.
I was like, okay, put me in my place. Like, I know I'm not a big fish at all, but every once in a while. So if anyone's ever reached out to me and was like, hey, I don't even expect a reply. I'm scared to even send this email. Here's a thing that I thought I'd message you about. If anyone's ever, it's all relative. We all do that. There's always someone higher up the mountain that we think is higher up the mountain,
That's not really.
There's not really higher up the mountain. Yeah. For all next year you could call a travel agency in my area and you'd hear, welcome to some travel agency. This is Sam. How can I help you?
Well, it's like when I was in high school, there was this band. It was like the biggest local band. They were called in Aviate. And before that, they were called Autumn Roads. But like I know the lead, like through mutual acquaintances, I know the lead singer of that band. Like, so my little brother, one of his best friends, married this dude's little sister. So like that's how like the connection is. But yeah, he's a mortician now. Like I would have given anything in the world to be Ryan Randall in high school because like I just loved the band. Like I thought he was the coolest dude. Like they were just super cool band, really liked their music and stuff. And now he's a literal mortician who, presides over funerals. And that's just what he does now. He went from being a long-haired, head-banging dude who I watched break his hand on a cymbal, like rocking out too hard on stage, to now he's a funeral director. So it's just like, cool.
And when we're fans of people like that, we're like, you can't give up. I love what you do too much. You can't, why, but the majority of us have a moment in our life where mine was waking up one morning alone in a studio apartment at the Art Institute in Colorado. And I woke up and I'm like, I don't want to be an animator. You know, and that was phase one of my, but everything up to that point, I went through junior high without doing a language because I knew Juilliard didn't require one. Because I was just going to go for music. I had my headset on things, you know, and so life is maybe full of little tiny off-roads that like the rest of the world would look at and be like, that's a 6-lane highway you're on, man. Why would you take a left off of that? Why would you take a right? You know, but sometimes life determines why, or we just concede sometimes, right? Like creatively, we're just like, I love it, but I can't do it anymore, you know?
Yeah, I did all of the prerequisites and everything and was in an accounting program. And about halfway, not like, I'd say about a quarter of the way through, I remember sitting on the couch on my laptop doing homework, and all of a sudden I just went click, 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 click. And then I looked at my dad. I was literally over at their house using their internet, and because ours was down and we lived like 2 blocks away. And I was just like, well, I just dropped out of school like that. And I was in the middle of doing my homework. I was like, yeah, I'm dropping out. I dropped out of school. I'm not going to be an accountant anymore. This is the dumbest thing I've ever had to deal with in my life. And I just dropped out right there. Never went back.
And sometimes we see people that don't give up. They don't give up and they just stay in the pocket until they're the thing. And then they do, which I think is extra awesome, which is they stay in the pocket after they've done the thing. They don't get bored, they get better. And that road gets much, much more narrow because like you could look like, even relatively speaking, you look at a band like the Beatles, stratospheric success and everything, but so stratospheric that they could take major risks and in my opinion make some major failures and still survive it where most people can't. Like I've said it before, the Beatles are like one of those rare instances where they're like, well, I'm so bored, what should we do? I've got an idea, let's make a whole album full of sitar. And like they survived that. I don't know how, but they did. But like, for example, every once in a while, I'll be like, what in the heck? That person listens to my podcast? So there's a 2-time Oscar winner who listens to the 911 Calls podcast. And more on that later. But I look at this dude and I'm like, he's everything I wanted to be, you know? And we'll message back and forth on one of the socials. And the other day I was like, you're awesome. And he was like, you're awesome. I was like, what's happening? So every once in a while, you know, it's like I said, it's all relative. Like, we had a mortician on here, right?
Yeah.
And I want her job.
Showed us the butthole screw.
She showed us the butthole screw. I want her job. Like, I'm a giant fan, you know? So anyway, it's all relative. What did you bring today?
I brought some funny history stories that are kind of funny and probably mostly true. So we're going to preface this as mostly true. Like, have you ever played the game Telephone? Like we've all probably played that game. Well, that happens in history too. So these things are probably mostly true. There's probably some embellishment happening, but most of these are verifiable to a point. But they're just funny, and they most likely happened. You know, history's written by the victors, right?
Yeah.
And so, you know, and then also with telephone, things change a little bit on the way. So you're just kind of left with what you're left with. And, you know, some of these things go so far back, there wasn't really good, you know, logs kept. Some of them there were, some of them there weren't. So we're just gonna have fun today and learn some cool, just random history stuff. So in school, we learned about like wars and presidents and Boston Tea Party stuff. But nobody told me about the time that a general accidentally / probably on purpose let a whole French town honor a latrine pit for 26 years because they thought it was a legitimate gravesite.
Oh.
That ever happened to you? So 1917. This is World War I en français. And so George Patton, who is famous for his World War II exploits, right? Well, in World War I, he was just a regular grunt, like just a regular, like he was an officer, but he was just like the lowest officer you could be back in World War I. Like he was just cutting his teeth. And he was stationed in this French town called Bourg. And so we all know pooping is a thing. We all do it, no matter who tells you otherwise. And because of that, soldiers had dug a latrine pit, which is fancy army talk for an outdoor shitter. And it's just a long hole in the ground. When it's full, they cover it with dirt and they dig another one. Well, you know, in the military, we probably all know people who are what we would call a smartass. And so this soldier, thinking he's being hilarious, makes a little wooden cross that says, abandoned rear. Abandoned rear. And he sticks it over the old latrine pit, right? Sticks it in the ground. Little crucifix. He's just making a joke.
Right.
Like, it's just some dude thinking he's being funny, makes a little cross and sticks it in the latrine pit, right? Well, the French mayor of the town who they were staying in, like, and had just defended, well, he comes running up to the closest soldier he can, which is Mr. Patton at the time, who wasn't a general at the time, tears literally in his eyes, asking why nobody told him that an American soldier had died in that area, in that exact spot, defending France from the Germans. So he's like, why is there a crucifix here? Who died defending us right here? And Patton, he's probably pretty smart if he ended up being a general. He knows nobody died there. He knows what exactly happened there. He probably dropped some logs right there himself. And he just kind of does the, like, he doesn't contradict the person. He just kind of does the nod and goes, yep, sad thing. Literally not telling him that it's just a latrine pit.
Yeah.
And so, like, what would you do? Would you tell the French mayor who's crying that he's crying over a turlet? Or would you just let him think what he wants to think?
I don't know.
It's kind of weird. Like, would you be like, no, that's just a joke, crying adult man. Don't worry about it.
The challenge is, I think sometimes faith has a hold on people that defies logic. Honestly, you know what it reminds me of? The Canticle for Leibowitz.
Mm-hmm.
Because those people, because the book is a post-apocalyptic, right?
Spoiler
and they find
alert.
archaeological evidence, you know, and they think that what they found is like a saint,
Mm-hmm.
you know, the writings of a saint, you know, and turns it's not,
No.
you know. But you know what I mean? Like there's something about sometimes faith precedes or defies logic, and sometimes there's power in that. I think I'd struggle to shut someone down.
Yeah,
who
who's
had
like experiencing an emotional situation, and
yeah.
Sometimes we don't like to pop people's bubbles too as people, so we just kind of go, it's just like the white lies, right? It's just kind of like, well, it's not going to hurt anybody. I don't want to pop your little bubble here and tell you that you're crying over a couple of people's turds in the ground.
Yeah, maybe a bit like Santa.
Yeah.
Or the
Tooth fairy or whatever you want to.
Tooth fairy, yeah.
So yeah, and Patton, he didn't correct the mayor. He just let him think that they'd buried someone there, and because of the language barrier, the mayor thought the dude's name was Abandoned Rear.
Wow.
So, like, imagine that's like, yeah, welcome to our little soiree tonight. This is Debbie, this is Janice, this is Steve, and over in the corner's Abandoned Rear. Yeah, that's his real name. So fast forward 26 years. World War II is going on, and guess who's back in town? Mr. Patton. He's a little bit more important now But he's back in the same town that he once helped defend from the Germans, and he's doing it again. Guess what he finds in this town of Borg? They still have a grave site set up there where the latrine was, and the townspeople are literally taking care of this grave and bringing, like, there's flowers there. They're still honoring the memory of the brave American soldier whose name is Abandoned Rear, who gave his life for France.
Yeah, it's literally the canticle for Leibowitz in this case.
Yep.
That's hilarious.
And so Patton even wrote about it in his memoirs. So this is one that's legitimate. Like General Patton actually wrote about this, like when he's writing his notes and in his autobiography, that the locals were still maintaining the grave of, quote, that national hero, Abandoned Rear, end quote.
Yeah.
So yeah, pretty funny. Just a funny little story about French people honoring turds for 26 years. Speaking of the military not being great at communication, during the Korean War in 1950, some Marines ran out of mortar rounds, so they radioed for more ammunition, but they used code names because of, security. So do you know the code name for mortar shells during this time? I mean, you should. You were probably there or whatever.
I don't.
If you had to guess. So it's a candy. I'm going to give you a hint. It's a candy, 1950s, still around today. Like, think of a candy that might look like a mortar round. That's,
Moon
it's
pie.
still around today. Tubular shaped. If it was, you had a small enough little tube, you could literally drop it in there and maybe it'd shoot out. Chocolatey flavor.
Brown.
Chocolatey flavor, brown.
Yeah.
Tootsie Rolls.
Tootsie Roll, yeah.
So that was the code name for mortar shells they were using at the time. But, like you, whoever was on the other end of the radio also didn't know that Tootsie Rolls was code for mortar rounds. So when the airdrop came, it was literally pallets of Tootsie Rolls. Not mortars. Literal Tootsie Rolls.
Tootsie Rolls.
So they're in a firefight. Like, they're calling for reinforcements, and they can't get any. But they're like, oh, maybe you can just drop us some more ammo. So they get a bunch of Tootsie Rolls. Like, how would you be if you're, like, opening this? You're like, yeah, the mortars are here. And it's literally just boxes and boxes of Tootsie Rolls. How would you feel?
I don't know. Well, one thing I'd probably feel, and this is, I think this is true to form, especially in those older wars, World War I, World War II. If you got a good meal, that means that they're about to send you into problem territory. So a whole thing of Tootsie Rolls, I'm like, great, we're dead.
Yeah, we're dead. So it's also, now remember, it's December. It's freezing cold. Yeah. And Marines, they're like, what's one of the Marines' mottos? Improvise, adapt, and overcome. So they figured out that Tootsie Rolls freeze solid in the cold.
They sure do.
But you can warm them up with your hands, and they turn into more like a putty when it starts getting warm. So they actually were using candy to patch holes in equipment and hoses that would then freeze back up and maintain a solid seal. One veteran said that, they were also just pounding those things. He literally said for 2 weeks straight, all he ate were Tootsie Rolls. Just like, think of the sugar high and the turds from that problem. So eventually some of the dudes even called themselves the Tootsie Roll Marines. Because they just were like, they had so much Tootsie Roll on hand, they had no idea. So, a little more background. 15,000 U.S. troops are fighting off 120,000 soldiers. Okay, that's why they needed the ammo. Wow. Was because they were that outnumbered. Like, we're talking 10-1 kind of odds almost. And so, eventually, though, they do get a legitimate resupply of ammo. And of course, because they're Marines, they punched a hole, and everyone got out, and they were able to kind of get away from that. So yeah, Tootsie Rolls instead of ammo is one. Next one. How much do you know about Julius Caesar? You don't need
delicious salad. No, I don't. I mean, I know enough, but it's all fun fact to know in Shareland.
Mm-hmm. So Julius Caesar, we're talking like younger Julius. He's 25 years old, and he also had communication problems, just like our soldiers in Korea did. But it wasn't with Tootsie Roll resupplies, because that was not a candy at the time of Julius Caesar. He had problems with. Did you ever hear about his problems with actual pirates? Like, who knew Captain Jack Sparrow even knew Julius Caesar? But here we are.
And here we are.
So Julius was 25 years old, and he was traveling to Rhodes. So you think about like Rhodes scholars, right? He's literally going there to advance his education because it's like he's still the heir apparent. Like he's still like gonna like they have big plans for him, but he's not,
Sure.
necessarily who he was yet. So he's trying to get smarter, get learnt in Rhodes. So he's traveling there, and that's when he gets captured by actual pirates who had no idea who he was. They're like, who the heck is Julius Caesar?
Yikes.
And so they're like, they knew he was rich because he had like an entourage and he had nice clothes and all this stuff. And he was traveling and like, hoity toity. And so they're like, hey, we can get money off this dude. Ransom time. So they demanded 20 talents, which is about 1,500 to 2,000 pounds of silver.
Oh, wow.
So
you mean in like actual weight?
In
or
weight,
like
silver. Yeah. It's like
UK?
1,500 pounds
Okay.
in US pounds to 2,000-ish, depending. Which it's about $700,000 in today's value. And so Julius Caesar, he laughed when they're like, yeah, we're gonna ransom you for 20 talents, and he was just laughing, and they're like, why are you laughing? He goes, because that's way too little. Like he's literally, so he starts negotiating his ransom up. So he's like, it should be like at least 50.
Do you know who my dad is?
Yeah, that's literally what he did. Like he's literally captured by actual pirates. He's like, do you know who my dad is? Like,
Dang.
do you think I'm only worth that much monies? No, you need to ask for at least this much money, like at the very minimum. So he's like,
Wow.
you need to ask him for 50 talents. Like, so he's sitting here and negotiating his own ransom up while he's being held prisoner. And 38 days he's with them. And the whole time he's literally treating them like they're his servants. He's like bossing them around, telling them what to do. Like he's supposed to be a captive, but instead he's telling them to shut up when he wants to sleep. They're being too loud. He's telling them how to do their jobs better and more. He even makes them listen to his speeches and poems that he's writing. Like he literally is like, nope, you have to sit down and listen to what I wrote. Like such a pretentious little dick.
Wow.
And so when they don't like his writing enough, he then goes, well, you're just too dumb to understand it. So like he's literally the like he's their prisoner doing this. And then he is constantly telling them, and when I do get out of here, I'm going to come back and he literally says, I'm going to crucify all of you. And he kind of does it with like a smile on his face.
Yeah.
And the pirates are just like, haha, this funny rich kid, he thinks he's so smart and tough. And so like what would you do if you had a prisoner who was acting this way?
I'd probably, well, it depends on how powerful I thought I was, but it's hubris, especially if you've taken someone unknown. I might get a little worried. I might be like, we got to look into this. Let's look into this.
Yeah, like
And
why
then,
isn't he scared?
well, depending on what I found out, I might just let him go because,
with an apology and a pack of goldfish.
I'd give him
For a
20
snack.
talents and be like, hey, 9 p.m., we're going to dinner and you're leaving the bamboo hut.
Yeah.
You're out.
Bye. So, as soon as Caesar's ransom gets paid, he gathers up a bunch of ships. And he's a man of his word. And he goes back to where he was being held captive. And guess who is still chilling there? The pirates who had captured him. And guess what he did? He crucified all of them, just like he said he would. He's a man of his word. It's like imagine being those pirates, and you're like, remember that weird kid who kept threatening us? Turns out he wasn't kidding at all.
Yeah.
And so, yeah. They all died. He murdered them all. Well, at least his henchmen did. So now we're in a different part of history. What do you know about the three popes in a nutshell?
The three popes?
The three popes.
Nothing.
So from 1409 to 1417, the Catholic Church had three different people all claiming to be the real pope.
Really?
So it started in 1378 when the cardinals didn't like the current pope, so they elected a different one. I don't think that's how it works nowadays. But they're just like, nah, you're out, bud. Bye. And then they're like, we are going to have a new pope. So then the old dude's like, I'm still the pope. You can't do that. That's against, like, you can't just vote me out. Like, God chose me. And they're like, no, God chose this new guy. So then for a long time, these two dudes were fighting. And then, like, most Catholics, like, I don't even know who to listen anymore. 30 years, you have two people saying they're the pope. 1409, somebody had the brilliant idea to fix this problem by electing a third pope. That's going to... So we have too many popes. So what's going to help? We're going to add another one just to see what happens. So you ever break something worse the whole time? You're just like, you broke something, but you're like, no, this is going to fix it. And then you just broke it even worse. You ever done that?
Yeah.
All the time?
Yeah.
So now you got three different guys calling each other illegitimate, literally and figuratively. And this is called the Western Schism, which sounds way more official than what it is. It basically is that time we had three popes and nobody knew what was happening. Like, it's just a period in Catholic history. 1417, they finally resolved it when they created a special council that basically fired all three popes and started over with a new one, Martin V. So yeah, they ended up firing all three popes. This time it stuck. And then you had new Pope Martin. So I wonder, like, what the paperwork involved in that is.
That would be, I mean, I could kind of see that happening because word traveled as fast as whatever the fastest thing you could hook a letter to.
The fastest hobbling plague victim.
Yeah. So I wouldn't be surprised that you could have that kind of thing grow up, develop in different parts of the world.
And the Catholic Church is known for, when they finally do put their foot down, they put it down hard.
Yeah.
So when they're just like, nope, they're all fired. All three of these guys are fired. There's a new one. I bet you anyone who said, no, I believe in the old one, probably got, a little gently nudged to believing something different. I would probably say.
Yeah.
So next, speaking of bad decisions and bad leaders, we had King Charles XII of Sweden. He was only 16 years old when he became king, and he decided to spend his entire time terrorizing Stockholm instead of being the king. So 1698, Charles, his cousin, comes to town, and, he came to town, his cousin came to town to marry his sister, because, that's what happened back in the day. So Charles's cousin is going to marry his own not Charles's cousin's sister is going to marry his own sister. He's going to marry his cousin's sister.
Okay.
So, because, got to keep the family strong. So the cousin that came into town, Charles's cousin, he's a total bro, and he turns Charles into a total bro. So now you have two bros who are literally like, they're like going like almost rock star style. Like they're throwing the furniture out of the castle windows for fun, just breaking stuff for fun. They're taking, like, visiting ministers and visiting dignitaries. They're throwing, like, fruit pits at them. They'll just be, like, eating fruit and just chucking their garbage at, like, actual important people. Because they're like, I'm the king. What are you going to do about it? So they even start going out into the streets, and they're literally it's literally like a bad episode of Jackass. They're literally just running around the streets and like pulling people's wigs and hats off and throwing them in the ground and then laughing and running away. Like, can you imagine walking down the street and someone rips your hat off, throws it in the ground, and you're just like about to do something, like, oh crap, it's the king. Like, you can't, like, what are you going to do? You can't just grab them and be like, hey, buy me a new hat. You ruined mine. And it's because the king's like, I'll kill you.
They spent probably little time on their health, so they're all scrawny,
Mm-hmm.
and their authority is strictly on paper. and could be stomped into paste by the local blacksmith.
Mm-hmm. But he just kind of has to bite his tongue, and so they're literally running around the streets just being like total bros. And then they cap it all off by killing a bear at a party. So somebody had a pet bear. These two dudes were like, "Hey, let's get it drunk," and they did. And the bear fell out of a window and died. And apparently, though, this is the turning point in Charles's life, because he's like, "I killed a bear, and I feel bad." For some reason, he felt bad about it, and he actually at that night, like the next morning, they're like dead bear, and he actually went sober. He got on that sober train, never drank again for the rest of his life until he died. He literally never had another drink ever again. And apparently he was a decent king afterwards. So all you need to do if you have a bad king is have him kill a drunk bear on accident, and then you can have a responsible king. Like history has shown us this. Another cool, I'll kind of wrap up. Another cool king story, 1921, last emperor of China. Title only, because in 1912, China no longer had emperors anymore, right? No kings. But they still had, like, it's kind of like in Great Britain where there was still the royal family, right? So Puyi, he was the emperor in name only. He was living in the imperial palace as a symbolic leader. And so he's a teenager, and he hears about telephones, these newfangled things called telephones. So he starts like lobbying to get a telephone in the imperial palace, like, and they're like they're like, no, nah, no, we're not gonna do that. That's not proper. He's like, no, I want a phone in my house now. The advisors tried to stop him, everything. They're like, it goes against tradition. It would hurt imperial dignity to let outsiders like have an access. Like they saw it as more of like it's an access point, which it kind of is, right? Like anyone can call in and talk to whoever answers the phone.
Oh, yeah.
And so
there weren't a lot of controls.
Yeah, so they're like, this is kind of a security issue. We don't want people to have direct access, blah, 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 blah. Anyways, they all fail. He gets his phone. So he's a teenager. What do you think he started doing immediately upon receiving his phone?
Prank calling people.
Heck yeah, he did. So you have the Emperor of China. He would call, like, one of his favorite things to do was to call famous people and just not say anything. So they'd be like, oh, hello? And he would just literally just not say anything and giggle. And then he'd hang up the phone. That's how he started out. Like, yeah, it's just like, tee, click. And they're just like, son of a bitch, it's the Emperor again. And so, like, he would call a bunch of, like, opera singers, like, people who were, like, performers, like, who were famous and stuff, and just giggle and then hang up. His next step of escalation was he started calling restaurants and ordering huge meals to be delivered to random addresses. Like, like the whole, like, ordering 12 pizzas to your buddy's house, and then, like, having him either have to pay it or like get in a fight with a delivery driver, like saying I'm not paying for this. He started doing that to people. So he's literally like, yes, I'd like 47 and a half dumplings delivered to Susan on this street. And then he'd hang up. Oh, the name on the order? IP Freely. Yes, it's IP Freely. Thank you. Bye. So yeah. So you had this little emperor of the last emperor of China, huge prank caller. So that's what I brought today. Just some random history facts that are funny, and so yeah, go out and prank call your friends, everyone. Prank call. Teach your kids how to prank call. Is your refrigerator running?
Grade,
better catch it.
In the 9th grade, in one of my classes, they taught us. It was like there was a finance section where we did like fake investing. You would pick stock and track it for a week or whatever, month, or I can't remember. But one of the things was teaching us how to write checks.
Mm-hmm.
And so the local bank had these like student training kits. And inside of the training kit was a deposit slip, a withdrawal slip, and then fake checks.
And how many of those fake checks tried to get passed as real checks?
Oh, 9th grade, Brian Mallender had a party. ordered pizzas, wrote a check. Brian Mallender got in a lot of trouble.
Yeah. Because that's
But
fraud.
Yeah.
Oopsies. Funny times.
All right. So I thought, we've kind of gotten away from, I was rewriting the podcast description the other day, trying to nail down, every once in a while I get on a kick trying to revitalize sponsorships and stuff. And so I freshen up put some makeup on the podcast out on the internets. And
when you said
go
podcast,
fishing.
I thought you were going to say pig.
Of course, sort of. They're like 335 episodes of what? And I'm like,
do you really want to know at this point?
And then I usually just end up going, you should go listen to Sword and Scale.
You imagine getting like 6 emails deep into that email chain, and then all of a sudden it's just like, yeah, you should just go listen to Sword and Scale.
Yeah, you know a good show. One that's worthy of your sponsorship dollars. Here you go. No, but I realized that in our podcast description we talk a lot about like mysteries and kind of the cryptid angle and stuff there, and that was pretty strong in the early days, and we've touched on it a little bit, but I thought I'd bring a pretty eerie story from the late 1800s, back in a time when they wrote, and what they wrote, maybe with a bit of review from an editor, just went out. It hit the news, and they gave a bunch of details because nobody was telling them no. Yeah. These were the days where they would say, criminal was taken into custody. Well, sort of taken into custody. He was dead by the time they got to him. He was bludgeoned to death by the butt of a rifle, and before that, he shot 6 people, and one woman, she got, this is graphic.
Yeah.
So I thought I'd bring a really pretty eerie story today. A missing person's ghost. This is the tale of a missing person's ghost that appeared, and it was all written in an old newspaper called the Democratic Northwest. Here we go.
Hey, I know what you're trying to do with this.
Fully 20 years have passed since Lizzie Clark, an orphan. Remember, this is October 18th, 1894. So this was written then. So 20 years have passed since.
There might be some colorful language that is not as colorful as it is racist.
Could be. We'll see.
Okay.
So that's the time period that this was written in. So we're talking, this is reflecting back on the 1870s. Fully 20 years have passed since Lizzie Clark, an orphan with a heritage, disappeared from a hotel in Dallas City, Illinois, as completely as if the earth had swallowed her up. In all that Western country, there has never been a stranger case than the disappearance of that girl, and there has never been a greater ghost mystery than has been and still is occasioned by the evidently disembodied spirit of the girl. The story of Lizzie Clark has been county history. She was an orphan and had some property and money. A guardian had been appointed, and Lizzie, being ambitious to add to her little store, set about to work in a hotel hard by the river's edge. Through the dining room of this hotel runs the line between Hancock and Henderson counties, so that often a guest reached from Hancock into Henderson County went after the butter. After a country swain and his lass, if seated opposite each other at this board, are in different counties, many a man wanted for some offense in Hancock County has sat at this table in Henderson County and grinned at the sheriff of Hancock County, knowing that they are completely fine. Couldn't be arrested. It was one afternoon about 20 years ago that Lizzie Clark, who had been washing dishes in the kitchen, stepped into the yard of the hotel. She was seen to leave the kitchen by several working around the house who paid no attention to the girl, but that was the last ever seen of her. One thing I'm noticing, just a quick aside here, I'm reading what they wrote, and the timbre and pacing of the way they wrote is a bit hard to read. It's hard to read, and it's like I feel like I have to retranslate things.
Just because you
Like
gotta talk like this, see?
The whole line about the several sentences talking about this, the line that went straight through the hotel that split the counties. Yeah, it just reads weird. It's kind of like, I'm like, what? Someone's reaching for the butter? What happened? So
It just sounds like my father-in-law when he talks. It's
okay.
like, I don't need that, and I don't need that much information. Like you'll be like, hey, how do you make this sandwich? And like 8 hours later, after he's told you about Korea 4 times, you're just like, I still don't know how to make the sandwich.
Yeah,
And that's
that
how this
reminds
news
me of
article is.
a sandwich made by a country swain and his lass.
You see, what a lot of people don't know is the county line goes right through the middle of that building, and a lot of people don't know that. It has nothing to do with anything ever, but people
Back
just
to the
don't know
sandwich.
that. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So this was the last time she was seen. She was leaving the kitchen. Several workers around the house saw her, but that was the last time. So those who saw her step out into the yard heard no scream, no stifled moan, no struggling. But there are people yet living who believe that the girl was suddenly seized, strangled, concealed in the house until dark, and then cast into the dark river. Be that as it may, the murderers, if they remained in the same locality long, have been amply tormented since. It is said that the murderers did not leave the locality for some time thereafter, and yet, again, others say the girl was never murdered, but drowned herself, and that her ghost is not one of a murdered person, but one of a suicide. All one can gain from the different stories and theories is that the girl was dealt with foully in some manner and that her ghost still haunts the locality. Of course, every effort was made to ferret out the mystery. Detectives hunted high and low. Money was spent to no purpose, and finally the guardian of the girl's estate turned her money and property over to the county authorities, in whose hand it remains to this day because there is no kith or kin to claim it. The girl's ghost was first seen in December 1887, when a party of duck hunters were returning to Dallas City from the islands. An excursion steamer had become disabled late in the season and was lying on the bank of the island across the bay. She was in a rather bad fix. It was expected to leave her there during the winter. As the hunters neared the craft, a form of white was seen to run out upon the upper deck. It was a young girl's figure, and she was evidently being pursued, for from across the water came screams, and then the following words, leave me alone, or I will drown myself." With that, the specter flung itself into the river. There was a splash, and the cold waters closed over the white body. Several times during that winter, the ghost of Lizzie Clark was seen at night and at early candlelight around the disabled steamer. When the steamer was taken away next spring, workmen and steamboatmen heard pitiful screams from the willows on shore as the boat moved away. The spirit did not leave the island. It is believed now that she was buried on the island after the murder. Of later years, however, the girl's ghost has been seen in a skiff at night, and it was only a few evenings ago that one of the St. Louis and St. Paul fast steamers ran into the spectral thing. The pilot did not see the ghostly craft until too late. He says he saw a boat of white that looked more like floating fleece than anything else. In the boat was a young girl in white raiment, but there were blood clots on the white dress. Quote, she was rowing swiftly when the prow of the steamer struck this small craft. It cut straight through like mist. The ghostly occupant only laughed a sort of uncanny laugh, a half scream, and when we had passed, I saw the spectral craft dancing on the waves behind. I doubt if an ordinary skiff could have lived in the waves of our steamer right under the paddles. Thus spoke the pilot, and he is a man of few words and sterling integrity. Have you seen Lizzie Clark's boat? Is now the question that goes from one mouth to another during the summer season. The question is not asked so often in winters from the fact that the poor girl's spirit does not seem to roam so much. Hunters have come into Dallas shaking with fright and calling for a dram to brace their nerves, saying that while coming down from the islands above on the ice, they had met Lizzie Clark walking rapidly toward them. She always wears all white, and the bloodstains on the neck are plain. The girl's eyes are always staring wide open, as if she were being suffocated. Her spirit has been known to step out from behind a clump of dead trees at the head of the island and face passers-by. She'll give them a terrible look and then scream piteously. In an instant, more of the spirit has disappeared. There's a sequel to our little tale. In March of 1915, a skeleton of a human female was unearthed around the grounds of the motel where Lizzie had worked, leading to the assumption that these were the remains of the long-missing girl. It was said that Lizzie's employers had been, quote, bad characters, utterly devoid of decent principles. Lizzie was said to have been in deep trouble with the hotel proprietors, presumably because she knew too much of their evil doings. The obvious conclusion was that Lizzie's mouth had been permanently shut. After the skeleton was found, Lizzie Clark's unhappy ghost was never seen again. And that is the creepy story of Lizzie Clark.
Freaking Lizzie. I liked it. I like creepy stories.
Sometimes I just feel like we need a good ghost story.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it I think helps lift us out of the doldrums of Twitter and Davos, Switzerland. So anyway, that's the story of Lizzie Clark. That's all I've got. And I think that's all Chase has.
Yeah. And we've been here for 2 hours.
2 hours.
2 hours.
So we'll be back again on Tube Steak next week.
Delicious.
And until then, soup, everybody.
Soup. Bye. Bye.
So soup, let's start the show.